So, yeah, has anyone got something so I don't throw us off on a contributor success task for the morning?
I did want to ask, or I was asking in Discord about setting a dark theme on Gitpod.
Yes, you are.
Because apparently that doesn't work.
So let me find. Oh, don't tell me I closed Gitpod. That would be really silly. So let me share. I definitely have had it working before.
Quick
Yeah,
question.
Sam was just showing me, and he went through a bunch of the VS Code settings, but none of them seem to take effect.
While we find those things, okay, right, there it is. Sorry, I was wondering when we were going to get a post in Discord, but it's just appeared, so never mind.
Brilliant, good. Glad the
Oh, and
bot's
it's got
still
me with
working.
my eyes closed. What a terrible first screen.
Did it change recently? Because when I log into my Gitpod account, it's dark.
All right, so that works. Yeah, like genuinely, he did that, and he tried changing it to a bunch of other ones as well, and none of them worked.
I'm gonna say try turning it off and on again and see what happens.
Well, he's been using Gitpod for the past week now, and as far as I'm aware, he's using Chrome.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's using Chrome.
Yeah, I mean, again, always happy to jump on and we can poke around together. But when I just had to do that, it suggests there must be something a little bit quirky about. Yeah.
I'll clip the first 30 seconds of this stream and send it to him.
Awesome.
And be like, look, it works.
I'm really excited to see his MRs, by the way, especially as you said, he's done some really cool stuff with
his
UI. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely a big change to the UI, but also a lot of improvements to the UX that he wants to get implemented. The thing is, just breaking it down into smaller, discrete merge requests.
Yeah.
I was going to see
people involved, I guess, to sort of see, if they like it.
Yeah, I was going to see if I can grab hold of whoever the PM is for Epics now. I forget who that was. Is it Gabe, Marco? Does Gabe deal with the Epics and stuff?
Yeah, if it's related to project management stuff, it's Gabe.
Yeah. It's weird because I don't know why I thought it wasn't. I always thought that my stuff, like, I was always working on that service desky stuff, always fit kind of under Gabe. But I thought the stuff that you were working on, Andrew, was more someone else. But I don't know why I thought that.
It was over a year ago, but I forget who now.
You say you thought it might be Workspace, Raymond?
I don't know. But if it's Epic-y stuff, I'm sure it's Gabe or someone else under Melissa.
Yeah, I don't know. I must have just been wrong, I think. But
Melissa, I've had a few chats with Melissa. There was someone else I spoke with, but I can't remember the name now. Sorry if you haven't been watching this.
No. It's all good stuff. And I think what I said to Marco previously, I think maybe the reason for my confusion was that I know we used to have two designers or UX or whatever. We had Holly that used to be the designer that I was working with on a lot of the stuff, and we had was it Alexis that you were working with on your stuff, Andrew? There was
I've done a lot of work with Alexis. That was to do with around the colours and stuff. Holly, I've worked with Holly before as well.
But I guess
wasn't there a handbook page that lists all of the different groups, I guess, within GitLab?
Yeah. There's I love that page and use it all the time. Product categories is what I always search for. But I think we looked at this and it definitely seemed to be Gabe. So I don't know where my confusion came from. Marco, you said you had something as well. You wanted to chat through?
I do have one topic that I am going to open an issue for the contributor success team and it's related to the contributors reviewing other contributors' MR. Because if at the moment when we ask for an MR to get reviewed, we can only ask to team members. If we want to lessen the burden on the team and we want to also allow contributors to ask review to other contributors, maybe for a first look to get the MR ready or polish it before actually getting the team to have a look at it. What if we allow GitLab heroes to be reviewers also, not only the team itself? Because if we allow everyone, I see that there might be some problems for abusing for example, the review command. But if we just make, I thought about heroes because they can help other contributors.
So
yeah. I wonder. I'm sort of interested in taking the flip and sort of saying, actually, I don't know if we've been overzealous and sort of the kind of restriction. Like, you can mention anyone on any issue, any merge request. So I don't know that I see that as a particularly what's the word, attack vector, or clearly we need security and other people to sort of confirm. But I would be somewhat inclined to say, why don't we spin up an MR to just remove that restriction altogether?
Yeah, I think I would be less concerned about abuse here, because even if somebody, what's somebody going to be able to do as a reviewer? They're still not able to merge.
Yeah,
they can simply they're simply listed as a reviewer on the MR and can potentially they're simply listed as a reviewer and can potentially approve. That approval means nothing technically, and it doesn't suddenly make something, because they're not a code owner, because they're not already tied in. It shouldn't be too much of a problem. And if we assume positive intent and we work from an assumption of positive intent first, let's open it up. And if we need to corral it at some point, then we can always look at corralling it. But I think spending a lot of time making it closed early on might be less helpful than just making it open and less restrictive.
Did you have a look at it? You gave me a link to it, Marco, so I'm going to try and find the link. Was it? Yeah. Did you send it directly to me? I want to try and see the MR that introduced it in the first place to see if.
Also I mean, the review from other members of the community wouldn't actually be for asking for approval, would be only just to review the code to maybe fix it or ask for help, because obviously our approval doesn't mean basically anything. And the abuse thing is actually, we can actually overlook that, because there is the how is it called? You can submit the GitLab review command only once a day for MR, I guess. So that's.
Can
you? I think so. There's some restriction on the amount of time that you can use that command.
Okay.
Rate limit.
Okay, that's what the name is.
Per hour, maybe.
Don't know.
I think it might be. I'm just having a look to see whether there was any sort of discussion around it only being team members.
By the way, then this leads to another question that I have, another proposal.
So it doesn't look like it was discussed. I think that was just a sort of assumption, that was just the natural way to build it. So I would encourage you and love it if you just spin up an MR to remove that limit from it. Mark, I won't steal your thunder because I think it's quite straightforward, hopefully. And So yeah, crack on. And sorry, you had another question. Far away.
Yeah, this is still related to the same topic, because if we allow contributors to ask to get a review from other contributors, how do you get to know who to pick? I mean, if you know someone, you can ask them directly, and you know that you can ping them. But if you don't, for example, because you just started out, who would you go to ask a review other than the team? Going back to the GitLab heroes to maybe get them, not to give them more importance, but to go back to them. Maybe we could add to the GitLab heroes informations the topics that someone is mostly interested in, or the areas that they are more used to work on. So maybe then if someone wants to search for someone else to review their MR, they can go to the heroes page, and maybe, let's say I did an MR, I open an MR that's changing something related to time tracking or project management. I know that, for example, if they go to the heroes page and they see my user, they see what my main focus is, they know they can ping me.
Yeah, I think it's a great question and a good idea as well. At this early stage in us, we're literally just starting down that journey of really starting to appreciate community as more than just, you know, throwing merge requests over the fence.
Yeah.
And the first step is recognizing that the community can do reviews. And are already doing some reviews. And I think the natural bit is the first step. So the natural bit is people are chatting on Discord, maybe they're having coffee chats, maybe they're meeting at our Contributor Days event, whatever it might be. And it's kind of happening quite naturally. I don't foresee too soon down the line that we would be, I don't want to say picking random reviewers, but, you know, that you would be pinging someone for a review that you haven't previously spoken to, you don't know a bit more, mainly because of capacity and it being a volunteering type thing. That being said, you know, definitely further down the line, I could see that being something that works quite well. What I've actually done is subscribed myself to labels for things that I'm really interested in. So like time tracking, and I'd be surprised if you haven't yourself, Marco.
Because you can think about it.
So I'm just going to scribble that down as well. So yeah, maybe it could be more of a, so this ties in really well with a conversation I had with you this morning as well, Marco, and I dropped last night. Raymond, I'm not sure if you saw it, but just to throw a spanner amongst the pigeons, I'm going to say, because I know that's completely wrong. Our merge request sort of process at the moment, review process at the moment is kind of like a push based. So I pick some, I'm hoping roulette ran on this MR. Doesn't look like it did for some reason. So yeah, I pick people to review my merge request based on some information that's available and hopefully whether they're available or how busy they are and other bits and pieces. But actually, what if the reviews were flipped on their head? So you kind of push things into a queue and then people just hop into that queue and take the kind of oldest item out of that queue. It could help, like if people are off sick or just too busy or holiday or whatever it might be. It might be a slightly nicer approach. That, in my eyes, would work so much better with this community approach, because it means that the community could do the same. They could just pop into that big queue, that pot, and just grab merge requests and review them, rather than there being that burden of, I've been asked to review some merge requests, I better do it. Again, it's the first time I've brought this up, really, so I'm interested in any immediate.
So it really comes down to a discoverability aspect. How do you discover who's available and or capable of reviewing your merge request? Roulette takes care of that with GitLab team members because it sets hello cat.
I'm going to interrupt you just to say that it does and it doesn't, right? It sort of, it takes a best effort
tries,
guess,
yeah,
but it's never going to realistically know, you know, it assigns, for example, it would suggest you even if it's not within your working hours, which means you're likely to take longer to review than if somebody, you know, if it worked the other way around, if that makes sense. So
yes.
someone just, but
yes
carry on.
and no, but at the same time, in a asynchronous environment where not everyone needs to be online at the same time, but yes, it can definitely help to sometimes find somebody in a closer time zone to you if you wanted that quick thing, or you maybe want somebody in a time zone that's following yours rather than ahead of yours. Yeah,
but that's kind of what I'm saying. It removes that aspect entirely if we flip it on its head, because I appreciate what you're saying, non-linear, async, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is that it doesn't need to know, because, you know, if I happen to pop on at 3 a.m. in the morning because my kids are keeping me awake, then I should be able to grab stuff and pick it up, rather than the assumption being that here's my timeline and therefore, oh, actually, yeah, you would be a good person to review this.
Yeah.
So you were saying availability and skill were kind of the two things, right? Or
yeah, well, those are the things you really want to discover. Yeah, is who's there, who's available to review, and who's available to review within the field that I'm busy working on.
So do you love or hate or sit on the fence with regards to, rather than it being down to the author to figure out who is available and who has the skill to review it, why not make it down to the reviewer?
But then you have another potential problem that it is solvable, which is, how do you know that someone is not already reviewing the thing that you want to review?
Okay, yeah, fair.
I mean, I would assume they would either assign themselves or mark themselves as a reviewer.
You can do that if you're on the team, but we can't do that.
Well, maybe we can
extend the bot to allow you to request the bot to assign you as a reviewer.
Yeah.
And the other question is, again, I think it's going to take us time before we, I don't like saying this, but, you know, before we consider a community review as a replacement for a team member review.
Oh, no,
so
I don't think that's ever going to be.
No, I do. I 100% do. You know, think of projects that don't have companies behind them, if that's the right term. You know, open source projects that is just an open source team of volunteers. I 100% think that we will and we want to. Raymond, feel free to step in, get to a position where we're happy for community. Yes, there probably needs to be a qualification of some sort to say that we think that you've got to a sufficient stage, or you think you have, or the community think you have. I don't want it to be we. So
look at something like the GitLab Terraform provider. That was a community project. Timo joined the project and was even a maintainer as being purely a community member. Yes, he's now part of the GitLab team, but before then he was part of that project, actively reviewing and actively maintaining.
Yes, I meant that the community reviews won't replace team reviews on GitLab itself, not on other projects. Because
no, probably not, at least for the early stage. But
okay.
If we grow the GitLab community to our stated goals of 1,000 community contributors a month, there's going to be a lot of community contributions flowing in. And as we grow that community, if we can load some of the review load into the community, that would absolutely give community reviewers something to do. It also means that contributions then become less, well, you have to contribute by contributing code or contributing translations or contributing something like that. But contributions then become, oh, well, you've contributed your time to make a review. So absolutely, that's valuable. But then we also just need to be mindful of measuring that. We're looking at getting to a point where we can measure that, so we can credit that.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that this kind of conversation is part of that journey, if that makes sense, from nobody understanding, nobody expecting, nobody believing that the community members do reviews, to people realizing that they do already happen, to then encouraging them to happen, to then get to a point where it's quite obvious, it's well documented, it's the process is in place, etc.
Yeah.
So I guess it probably will ultimately fall down to, as you pointed out in the first place, Marco, contributor success to sort of come up with a bit of a plan, moving forward, how we're going to start implementing it. And obviously I've thrown that, I'm going to go back to my spanner amongst the pigeons to, I've not really raised that with anyone yet. So I'm keen to see if there's any appetite for it. Clearly it doesn't it's not in keeping with the current way that the GitLab review process works and the functionality. So it would mean like huge upheaval and huge change, but I wonder whether it's necessary to scale.
We also kind of already have something like what you are suggesting, because that's the triage report that's run every day.
That's an interesting one. It kind of is. I guess the triage report is, it does name, it kind of says, right, Marco, can you triage these issues? Lee, yes. Can you triage these? Right. But, that would be an interesting approach to take, actually, just to run a report maybe more frequently than every day, every couple of hours, to run a report that says there's these MRs in the queue, ordered by the oldest ones, and you're welcome to hop in, although maybe it doesn't really need that. Maybe all it needs is a favorite, a URL, a link to merge requests, filtered by, if you want to filter it because you're only front end or back end, ordered by the age, with the right workflow label. Maybe that's all it needs. I think one of the problems at the moment is that we can't, if you've got merge requests with back end and front end, for example, I could search to see that it was ready for review. I'm saying that. Do we use these labels, Raymond, for non-community merge requests?
The workflow labels?
It looks like we do, right?
Yeah, the workflow labels are used internally too.
Perfect. So, yeah, if we've got a merge request with backend and front end, or database and backend, or several pieces, we can't see the state of each of those things. So if I'm a database reviewer and looking to pick up a database review, and I looked for workflow ready for review, database label, sorted on age, then I might pick something up that has database stuff, but the database review's been done. It's the back-end review that's still waiting. So actually, there might be a much quicker way to get what we want without having to completely reinvent the wheel.
And that is?
Which is this way?
Yeah.
Oh, just searching. Yeah, so
okay.
Merge requests, right? So, on this one, open merge requests. No, let's go up to a higher level, because we shouldn't be in a project. So merge requests. Let's try our theory out now. So it's already sorted by created date, but in the wrong direction. So let's flip it on its head. Let's say I am a backend reviewer. I'm sure it's not going to work perfectly, but if we could already do a lot of it without sort of reinventing the wheel, then it makes me think, well, maybe we don't need to add that much to be able to do it. And I want to see, I'd have to do
Label equals, yeah.
Equals workflow. Ready. Review. So this is my really naive version of what we would be working our queue. So oldest one created 7 months ago. It's ready for review. It's not been merged, so we go in and we review it.
So now,
go on.
So it's ready for review, and that's maybe where the current workflow breaks down a little bit, because just because it says it's ready for review doesn't mean that it's not midway through review or being bounced back and forward between contributor and reviewer several times.
Yeah.
And so yes, it's ready for review. What value is there in somebody else coming in and popping? Oh, there we go. So yeah.
So you know, bearing in mind I'm making this up on the spot, you get the idea. Like, so what we, as far as I know, we're not very good at using the in review workflow. So there's an in review that could say, like, you know, it's currently in review. I'm sure there probably need to be some exclusions as well. Like this is quite a good one, because as you say, if you've already been working with someone on a review, then the question is, well, is that person, you know, should they continue the review, or is it just as valuable to just throw it back into the pot and have somebody else continue the review? Does it really need to be that original person? If there's a lot of context, then it probably makes sense. But you know,
there might be a slight problem with the ready for review, though, because the ready for review label is added when we do GitLab ready.
Yeah.
So that adds the label and picks a reviewer.
Yeah, I mean, we're just making things up as we go along here. So clearly, we would absolutely need to change the automations.
The filter that you just wrote basically tells me that those 3 MRs did get a first review, and the reviewer unassigned themselves.
Yeah, so probably I need to go into all 3 of these and set them back to in dev, is what you're suggesting, right?
Should be. That should be the workflow.
No, it's 100%. But, you know, I think throwing the idea out there, nobody's immediately saying, oh, no, that's a terrible idea. So I'm going to push it forward and see what people think.
Oh, by the way, that's a really good username. Nobody.
Love it.
I think they're actually a MVP several releases ago.
Yeah, I recognize that crazy
username.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry for disrupting things. So yeah, we're talking about community review, but hopefully it all kind of fits together, right? That, you know, something that somebody said to me a couple of days ago as well that I fully agree with, hopefully one of the people around the table, that the problems that we're encountering and trying to solve are problems that other open source projects are going to be encountering and trying to solve. So we've got that awesome kind of, you know, we're not the first people, so somebody else might have an idea how to solve it or solved it already, and or, you know, we can solve it not just for ourselves, but for others.
Mm-hmm.
Which maybe brings us onto the forks and spoons. So Yeah, we got anything else on our list? I'm sort of conscious of the time moving forwards, and it's nice sometimes if we're covering a number of bases rather than getting to dwell on the details.
I can't really think of anything else.
So, okay, ties in really nice then. The thing that I was originally interested in looking at was for the triage project. So, one of the things you quite rightly pointed out here, let's get rid of this label and see how it changes things, is that we almost think there shouldn't be any merge requests in this state, right?
Yeah.
So, one of the things we'd like to do is an automation for setting the workflow label back to in dev.
Okay.
So I guess the thing that's kind of sitting in the back of my mind, there is an issue somewhere that I'll try and dig out in a moment, but how do we and when do we? Should it be a reactive processor that kind of specifically reacts to an action, or should it be more of a policy that runs on a schedule? That was one of my first thoughts.
I think it should be a policy run on a schedule, because if you have a reactive command, to which action would it react to? I mean, if we react to a review submission, that could just be a submission to say, okay, that's everything good, let's move this on. If we react to an update to the branch, it could just be for rebasing from master because it was updated. I can't really think about other.
I suppose one tangible one we might want to react to there is, and maybe it's even an even simpler reaction here, is that if a reviewer removes themselves, you might have to. I'm just kind of like throwing some conditions out there. How to group these conditions together might be challenging, but if a reviewer removes themselves, doesn't set approval, and a new reviewer isn't set, then that's often a case of, right, well, I've done my review, removed myself, it's back to the contributor. And in fact, I just opened up the top one in that list that Lee had in the previous view.
Okay, yeah.
Just to see what the state with that one is, and it's kind of just that 15 hours ago the maintainer left a review and sort of batted back to the contributor. So we could do one or two things there. We could just have a reactive thing to just mention the person that's unassigned themselves and say, hey, you do you want me to pop the, I can send you the
Please go for it.
We should also handle a cooldown for that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because if the reviewer do those things not all in the same action,
that's why I thought it probably needed to be a policy, because I can't see how we could do this in a way that says give them this amount of time to finish their actions.
Yeah. So absolutely, but it could be a policy, and all it could really be is, instead of automatically changing the workflow, it just could be a thing to nudge the reviewer. Hey, you've made some review comments. You've batted it back to the contributor. Does the workflow need to be changed back?
I fully agree. First iteration, that makes a lot of sense. Let's start by prompting rather than doing. If we find that that's like always, if we get feedback that that's always kind of right, then maybe we start to, maybe we prompt and do. So we say, you know, it looks like you've completed your review and there's further work to be done. We've set the label back, but if this is wrong, then let us know.
Yes. A, let us know, and B, feel free to change back, kind of thing. Yeah, that's that kind of.
Yes, the challenge that I'm then seeing. So if what we were looking for is exactly what I've searched for here, which is that is the current workflow label and there's no reviewer. So first of all, I got to see it might take a little bit of tweaking to the project to allow it to support that API query. But hopefully it's already there. But then how do we get that? Like, it seems like it's going to be a lot of digging potentially to then find, okay, who was the most recent reviewer to remove themselves, if that makes sense.
That is already in somewhere in TriageOps. I did a review on somebody that was doing something similar in TriageOps, so that logic is already there. We might need to extract it into some sort of shared place, but the logic is already inside TriageOps somewhere.
Nice.
And how should we handle the case where an MR spans on multiple areas, for example, backend and frontend, and the backend reviewer asks for changes, so it should still go back to in-dev, but we still have the front-end reviewer assigned?
I probably wouldn't worry about those for the time being, because I think the truth is that they are still in review. They're in dev as well, but they're also in review. So I think I would be happy. I think it's more important that we identify where there's what would I call them, like workload, backlog, that kind of thing on the GitLab team member side. And apply less pressure to the kind of community member. I can also understand that, you know, some might prefer to wait for all the feedback rather than getting a bit trigger happy and pushing changes when they've had a bit of feedback, if there's still more to come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think in those, it's probably just easier to keep the old Schrodinger's box closed, because at that time the thing is both in dev and in review, and you try to programmatically open that. And as it is, anything that we do with labels is kind of a is kind of a
workaround, let's say.
A monkey patch. Yeah, workaround's maybe a nicer way of saying it. Whereas if there was a little bit more workflow baked into the underlying product, we could do that. That's not to say that that's not down the line. I don't know if it is. I'm not speaking direction here, but
I was just going to ask, actually, tangentially related to that. Do you know if work items are going to have any kind of built-in workflow features, I guess?
Off the bat, I doubt it, because work items really, as I understand it right now, is just a reimagining of projects and groups. And
I thought work items were replacing issues and epics.
Well, it is, in the sense that work items can kind of just happen against a node in the tree, rather than you can only do some things against a project and some things against a group. But
yeah, I guess it's kind of making it more generic, isn't it?
There's workflow and automations, Epic 364 there. Technical item 6 in the...
So this is what I wanted to draw your attention to. Really interesting Epic. I suggest like having a look over. So yeah, essentially there's work going on to accelerate what I call in service desk. I know that term can be used very, very differently, but part of that definitely is I'm not overly familiar with ITIL, but I know it's to do with workflows and processes, and so yeah, if you have a look around here, hopefully this will put a boot up the kind of custom fields. Definitely isn't what I'm looking for, but yeah, but baking some of the stuff that we've been working around by using scope labels into the product. There's also incubation engineering teams, single engineering groups working on, I guess this is kind of the right topic, like no code, low code, like automation, and service desk as well as it goes. So there's definitely some kind of focus on that. But I still don't know. that sort of almost makes the problem worse, not better, because I've had this challenge about using scope labels for things in the past where you're like, but what if I want, say department or group is quite a good one, but then you have an issue that you actually overlaps between two groups. And you're like, I really want to be able to put both of those labels on it. So, and that's one of my suggestions was going to be about the workflow. Well, maybe we make it not a scope label, so you can have something that is in dev and in review at the same time. But then that breaks the whole, the idea is every time we change the workflow, it kind of removes the previous label automatically.
And maybe a nicer way would be to use scoped workflow labels for each area, for example, backend, frontend, and database.
Yeah. Definitely feels like it might be taking our kind of workaround a bit too far, if that makes sense, and starts to highlight the real kind of like.
But even if that workflow was baked into GitLab, or I don't know how other tools can handle something like that, because if the work that you are doing and you're getting reviewed is touching multiple areas, how do you say that in this area is in the review phase and this area is in the dev phase? Yeah, I don't know.
I feel you.
And then it raises the question, should it be only one thing, or could it be split in areas?
Sorry, a squeaky floorboard. I couldn't hear.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if we have all those areas in one MR, should it be really one MR?
Yeah, it's a good question, and quite often I guess there is a hint that maybe we should be splitting something up into smaller merge requests, but I think there are instances, it might even be like a terminology change or a UI text sort of thing, that you end up changing something that's classed as backend, something that's classed as front end, something that's test, etc. So
XAML files are a perfect example because they are front end, but they're labeled as backend.
Yeah. Do you happen to know, Roman? I know you were saying that there was something that works off of like who the most recent reviewer is, or something along those lines.
Let me dig it out quickly.
I could try sharing. I've got my other screen, but I don't know how to. I suppose the answer would be open this in Gitpod. Don't know how slow or quick that is.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, really?
What's that?
It was that quick?
This is the Triage Ops project.
It's not.
Yeah,
but yes, Gitpod can be that quick when it's not trying to pull the GitLab GDK plus the world container.
But I know I've spoken to most of you about this recently, but the Gitpod's hugely on our radar as well. And if you open a pre-build, I think we're about 5 minutes for it to be ready, which is pretty cool. I've definitely seen it down like close to 2 minutes in the past. I'd love to get it back to that sort of thing, but the difference between 20 minutes and 5 minutes is huge. Difference between the difference between grabbing a cup of coffee and maybe falling asleep, I guess, would be more my exaggeration. So yeah, where are we looking?
I'm actually looking at previous MRs because I specifically reviewed an MR on this. So just give me 1 second.
Yeah, cool.
Digging. Okay, found it. So if you look in assign dev, so triage processor, assign dev for verification. So specifically here, it looks somewhere in here, it looks to see if someone has recently just been unassigned. So there's
recently unassigned username.
Yes, there we go.
Nice.
So that shows you who's been most recently unassigned.
Brilliant. That's cool.
Oh, and that's working on system nodes. Oh,
it works on nodes, yeah.
That's
well, it's something that's there. It's because I suppose that item is recorded as a note. It's not actually recorded or visible anywhere else in an API that I'm aware of.
Yeah. Cool. No, that will be really helpful. So just going back to that, so I end up as the one with an action to take away from today. So we're thinking first iteration will prompt the most recent review. So if we've got a merge request that has the ready for a review, or possibly the one that we don't really use much, but possibly also if it's got the in review workflow as well.
We can't see all of those because our faces are over.
Hey, and if I do that, you're not going to see them either.
Just if you just scroll down that page, but before you bring up that select box, would have been
an easier way where we can see them in all their glory.
Sure? Are you sure?
There we go. Well, actually,
there's in review.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we ignore some of the noise for now, although we expect it to probably be in this.
I don't see red. Oh, maybe it's behind.
Ready for reviews. Either the last one on the list there, or it's on the next page.
Oh, there's many more.
Yeah. So, but I think we specifically want to say it's in review or ready for review. So no assignee, no reviewer assigned. Nudge most recent reviewer. So what else can we? Because what do we want to say that there are no approvals, or is that too blanket?
Well, I suppose in this case, that's in this particular MR that we looked at, that's currently sitting at maintainer level. So there is an approval. So
that's a bit too harsh. So if there's no reviewer, it should the only exception to the rule would be if it's already to set when merge when pipeline succeeds, or is that not right? can't think of any other scenarios where it would be fine for an MR to sit in review with no reviewers assigned to it.
Yeah.
But even when pipeline succeed is set, there still should be at least the last maintainer as reviewed. I see. Why would they remove themselves?
Yeah, interesting. There's a lot of it's a controversial topic, removing yourself as a reviewer.
Yeah. Oh, if you have an MR assigned to review and you already set the approval, does that still is that still visible on the merge request that you have to review?
Yes, it still appears in.
Until the MR is closed or is merged.
That's pretty much the only reason that people unassign themselves, is because it basically your number up here makes it look like you've got lots of work to do and you can't sort of see the wood through the trees, as they say.
Yeah.
So it's kind of making me think of other automations now as well. Like if somebody sets it to merge when pipeline succeeds, like should the state change to? I'm sure there was probably a workflow label for complete or something like that. But at the moment, I can't think of any other real scenarios. Like if it's approved, you would either assign the next reviewer, like the maintainer. There would be other reviewers still on there, or you would set it to merge when pipeline succeeds, I guess. So, and the great thing about being a policy is that we can dry run it to see what it would do, and we can set the schedule as and how we see fit, from what I understand. So it's just made me think of something though. This that you showed me is a reactive command, Raymond. So what we've got access to here is different to what we've got access to in our policies.
Yes and no. Remember, the policies we can still add custom Ruby into, and it's looking at the merge request as a whole. So you can still pull the notes out of the merge request.
Okay.
I'd have to figure out how, but yes, it's theoretically possible.
So you have access on the policies. On the policies, you have access to each item that's found given a set of filters, and you can access all of the attributes. So you would have the full path and the ID, so you could get the notes.
Yeah.
So perfect. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So the main thing is we need some reasonable criteria to be able to filter, as long as we don't get like 100,000 merge requests back, which I don't think we would if our sort of API request is specifically saying only give us merge requests that are open, no reviewer assigned, and they've got one of these two labels. That would already be quite a small number. And then to use some custom Ruby to then make additional API calls to get some more data and make some decisions should be cool.
Yeah, you could even filter by, for example, if you run the job every 5 hours, you could filter only the MRs that got updated in the last 5 hours. Which then would need something that I want to add to this gem, which is interval type, only has days, month, and years, I think. It doesn't have hours or minutes. So, yeah.
Cool. Does it support floats?
Not really sure.
Maybe you can do like 0.1 days. Anyway, we digress and time's getting on. I think that's awesome. I think I've got enough to at least put a merge request together, and then I can get you guys to sort of have a poke and add some meat to it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wicked.
Great.
Thank you very much for your time as always, and see you next. Oh, Marco, one more.
Yeah, only one last thing. The first thing that I talked about improving the GitLab Heroes page to also mention the areas of interest and something like that. Is that something already? Is there some issue already existing for something like that, or should I just open a new one?
I think just open a new one. I don't think there is one at already there, but potentially look at adding a new one. Or possibly even in Discord at mention Jamie. Might be a good thing. Let's get some discussion. But yeah, obviously issue works well too. So
yeah, I'm quite surprised that we don't. So on GitLab team members, I think it would be quite a nice change to add. So we get popovers, I think, on.
So you get the pop-ups. So that's just in the. I've kind of looked at that a little bit myself recently, but that's just in the implementation of the page. So
we could quite easily modify this.
Yeah, the page itself has a bit of, is it ERB? Yeah, I think it's ERB that parses the
YAML.
That parses the YAML, and the Heroes one just has a little bit less. So it could easily, it could be fleshed out quite relatively easily.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the steps are currently already there. So yeah.
So we could quite easily add like a topics or interests sort of key pair value, whatever you want to call it, to the YAMLs and leverage that. Yeah, nice one, Marco.
And is
there another thing for your list?
Yeah, and also, is there a just ask him if you know, otherwise I'm gonna search. Is there an issue to the thing about reviews from the contributors for that investigation?
There possibly is an issue for that in our team.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Lee's gonna have a look at some of the automation stuff. I was actually going to be putting some handbook changes together on that also.
Nice.
So between us, we hopefully will have something to work off, because automation is one thing, but handbook is our policy and how we do things. So
yeah, because there's already an existing issue. I wanted to comment about the idea of tied with the Heroes page update to allow Heroes to get.
No, that makes sense. I think Nick mentioned this morning that he was going to create an issue, but I forget exactly what the context was. Yeah, I can't remember. Along the lines of to start sort of encouraging it in some way, shape, or form. So again, feel free to ping us when you create a merge request or issue, and we'll cross-reference it if there's any additional ones, and we'll try and remember to mention you on those issues as well.
Yeah, don't worry. Okay.
Awesome. Have a great afternoon, all.
You too.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
See you later. Bye.
Cheerio.